There's a kind of silence. That doesn't mean peace. It means you've seen too much. It's the silence of a deep thinker, someone who doesn't just look, but sees. Someone who doesn't just hear, but listens to what's unsaid. And that's exactly where the curse begins. Because the more you see, the less you fit. You're not broken. You're just awake in a world that's asleep. And when you wake up too early, too deep, you're not celebrated, you're isolated. Carl Jung warned us, the more intelligent and self-aware a person is, the more they suffer from the general unconsciousness of society. And he was right. This video isn't for everyone. But if you've ever felt like your thoughts are too much for the room you're in, if you've ever been punished for seeing the truth too clearly, keep watching, because this is for you. Noticing what others ignore. Deep thinkers aren't born in comfort. They're forged in discomfort. From a young age, they notice strange contradictions. Why do adults lie and call it manners? Why do people say, "I'm fine," when their eyes scream otherwise? Why do we worship happiness but bury pain? While other kids play with toys, you play with thoughts. And when you ask questions, they told you to stop. Why do you think so much? Can't you just be normal? But you couldn't, because the truth always called louder than the lie. The dinner table test. Imagine this. You're sitting at a dinner table. Everyone's laughing, gossiping, exchanging surface-level words. You say something real, something raw, maybe about pain, or meaning, or the silent emptiness inside modern life. Suddenly, the air changes. They look at you, not with understanding, but with discomfort. Someone clears their throat. Someone else says, "Anyway, it wasn't what you said that upset them. It was what you made them feel." And people don't like to feel. Not really. Not deeply. So they reject the person who reminds them of their own hidden depths. That person is often you. Jung's shadow and the mirror. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of ourselves we reject, deny, bury. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And here's the painful truth. Deep thinkers are often rejected, not because they're wrong, but because they're mirrors. You reflect what others suppress. You ask the questions they fear. You expose the wounds they pretend don't exist. You are the shadow's messenger, and the world kills its messengers. Depth is not a superpower, it's a burden. In the movies, being a deep thinker looks cool, but in real life, it's exhausting. Because depth means overthinking, sure, but also overfeeling. You walk into a room and absorb every tension, every glance, every unsaid word. You see a post on social media, not the photo, but the emptiness behind the smile. You hear a friend say, "I'm fine," and your body screams, "No, you're not." You're told to let it go, but you can't, because you're not built that way. The isolation paradox. Here's the cruel irony. The more deeply you think, the more alone you become. You crave connection, real connection. But most conversations feel like plastic. Light, scripted, repeatable. You try to speak your truth, but it doesn't land. Not because it lacks value, but because it asks for too much. Too much honesty, too much attention, too much thought. And in a world addicted to speed and simplicity, you become invisible. Childhood wound of depth. It starts early. You're the kid who asks why. Why are people mean? Why do parents fight? Why does love sometimes disappear? But instead of answers, you get punishment. They call it being too sensitive. They call it being dramatic. And so you adapt, not by thinking less, but by hiding what you think. You become quiet, observant, careful. You learn how to live on the edge of things, always watching, rarely belonging. But inside you, the questions never stop. World of inner worlds. By adulthood, most people live outside themselves. Their minds are filled with borrowed opinions and recycled trends. But not you. You built something vast inside your skull, an entire world, full of unspoken thoughts, buried truths, secret philosophies, and aching beauty. It's a world few ever visit, and even fewer understand. And that's both your power and your prison, because no matter how rich the inner world is, we are still human. We still long to be seen. And when your mind becomes a mansion no one enters, you start to feel like a ghost inside your own life. Skull Segment 8. Carl Jung's warning. Carl Jung didn't romanticize depth. He knew the dangers. Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious. That's what deep thinkers do. They walk into the caves of the mind that others avoid. They confront the monsters hiding in childhood. They see the system beneath the surface. They question love, belief, identity, not to rebel, but to understand. And in doing so, they become strangers in a world addicted to sleep. Because when you see too much, you can't go back. You're overthinking again. You've heard it, haven't you? You're overthinking again. You're reading too much into it. But what if you're not? What if the silence in that room did mean rejection? What if the hesitation in their eyes was a hidden resentment? You don't live in illusions. You live in layers. You see things others don't. You connect threads they miss. And yes, it hurts, but it's also true. You're not overthinking. You're seeing clearly in a foggy world. And clarity has a cost. Why society distrusts the deep? There's a reason society mocks deep thinking. Because it threatens the structure. Shallow systems depend on shallow people. Follow the rules. Buy the product. Stay busy. Don't ask too many questions. But deep thinkers question everything. Why we work. Why we love. Why we believe what we believe. And that makes you dangerous. Not in a violent way, but in the way mirrors are dangerous. You force others to see themselves. And most people aren't ready. The invisible weight. Being a deep thinker isn't about being better. It's about carrying a weight no one else sees. You carry conversations others have forgotten. You remember tones, patterns, silences. You relive moments, not to obsess, but because they echo. Where others feel a tap, you feel a tremor. Where they shrug off a word, you analyze its entire skeleton. It's not that you want to feel everything. It's that you can't not. And sometimes that's exhausting. Because feeling deeply in a numb world feels like bleeding in a room full of mirrors. When silence speaks louder. Most people are afraid of silence. They fill it with noise, music, scrolling, small talk. But you stare into silence like a mirror. And sometimes it stares back. That's why you notice things others ignore. You catch the contradiction in someone's smile. You feel the sadness in their joke. You sense the tension between their words. But when you speak of it, they look at you like you've broken some rule. Because you have. You broke the illusion. The punishment of truth. In the stories we tell, truth is noble. But in real life, truth is dangerous. You say something real, and the room goes cold. You call out the lie, and they call you the problem. Deep thinkers don't get attacked for being wrong. They get punished for being right too soon. You saw it coming. You tried to warn them. They didn't listen, and when it all fell apart, they blamed you anyway. Because people don't want profits. They want permission to stay blind. Chart decreasing segment 14. Too intense. You're too intense. Too emotional. Too much. You've heard it all. But what they really mean is this. You feel things I don't want to feel. You ask questions I don't want to answer. You see me and that terrifies me. You're not too much. You are just what the shallow cannot hold. And when a glass is too small for the ocean, it blames the ocean for overflowing. Deep thinker's dilemma. So here you are, smart enough to see the system, sensitive enough to feel its weight, strong enough to carry it alone, but tired, so tired, tired of being misunderstood, tired of editing your thoughts, tired of pretending you're not drowning in awareness. You want to connect, but you also want to protect your inner world. You want to be seen, but not dissected. You want depth, but you're surrounded by surfaces. This is the deep thinker's dilemma. To hide and feel lonely, or to speak and feel rejected. The mind is a temple, not a trap. They think your mind is a prison. They say you're stuck in your head. But what if your mind is a temple? A place you built, brick by brick, from memories no one else remembers, from meanings no one else sees. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's heavy. But it's also sacred. Because while others escape their thoughts, you live in yours. Not to suffer, but to understand. Carl Jung said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. You've chosen awakening. And awakening always comes with pain. When you start to doubt yourself. There are nights when it gets to you. When their silence feels like a verdict. When the world's shallowness makes you question your own depth. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I do overthink. Maybe I should just shut it all off. But here's the truth. You were never the problem. You were the signal in a world tuned to static. You were the fire in a room full of cold mirrors. You didn't break the rhythm. You revealed it was hollow. And that kind of courage, that's rare. That's real. DNA segment 18, the shadow's secret gift. Jung believed that if you face your shadow, the parts of yourself you fear, deny, suppress, you unlock something extraordinary, wholeness, because a shadow isn't evil. It's unlived potential. It holds your power, your intuition, your depth. Most people run from it. But you face it. You sit with it. You listen. And that's why your mind is not a curse. It's a compass, pointing to what others have abandoned. You walk through darkness not because you love it, but because that's where the truth is buried. Cross-sword segment 19, the cost of being awake. There's a price to thinking deeply. It's not applause. It's not comfort. It's alienation. You'll lose friends. You'll walk alone. You'll be misunderstood, misquoted, mislabeled. But what you gain is irreplaceable. You gain clarity. You gain depth. You gain a voice that doesn't echo, it resonates. You'll stop being liked by many and start being felt by a few. And in the end, that's all a deep thinker truly needs. Letter to the deep thinker watching. If you've made it this far, I want you to hear this, not as narration, but as a message written just for you. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not lost. You are awake in a world that teaches sleep. You are real in a culture that worships masks. Keep questioning. Keep feeling. Keep seeing. Even if no one claps. Even if no one stays. Even if the world tells you to turn it off. Don't. Because in a world that fears depth, your depth is revolutionary. Building walls that look like wisdom. Sometimes, deep thinkers become too self-aware. You've been hurt, misunderstood. So you build walls made of intellect, of silence, of skepticism. To others, it looks like wisdom. But sometimes it's just armor. You don't do small talk because it feels fake. You stay silent because you know the cost of honesty. But beneath that stillness is someone who longs to connect. You've been labeled as distant. But truthfully, you're just guarded. Not because you hate people, but because you've studied them too well. The mask of I'm fine. Every deep thinker eventually learns to lie. Not with words, but with smiles. You master the art of I'm fine because every time you try to be real, it was too much for them. So you water yourself down. You shrink your questions. You laugh at things you don't find funny, just to fit in. But inside, you're not fine. You're aware. And awareness is heavier than sadness. The mirror no one wants to look at. You become a mirror for others. They avoid you, not because you're wrong, but because when you speak, you expose what they buried. You ask questions like, what are you pretending not to know? Who hurt you that you're still trying to impress them? They call it overthinking, but it's truth-seeking, and truth is a mirror. Not everyone is ready to see their reflection, so instead of gratitude, you get distance. DNA segment 24, you see patterns, not people. One of the curses of thinking deeply is pattern recognition. You walk into a room and notice the tension between the couple, the mask on the narcissist, the sadness behind someone's sarcasm. You see the loops, the emotional programs, people acting like they're free when they're actually conditioned. It's not that you don't love people. You just see them too clearly. And once you see someone's wounds, it's hard to play the game of polite ignorance. The deep thinker's time paradox. You live in 3 timelines. The past, replaying what they meant by that sentence. The present, analyzing what's not being said. The future, predicting consequences no one else sees. Your mind doesn't rest, not because you choose it, but because it's wired for meaning. But meaning is rare in this world, so you become exhausted. You're not lazy, you're mentally overstimulated. And the most tired people are those who feel everything in silence. Drop of Blood segment 26. Why you're always too sensitive. You feel things before they're spoken. You carry moods that aren't yours. You cry at beauty. You ache at injustice. And they call you too sensitive. But Carl Jung would say, you are not too sensitive. You are alive in ways others have forgotten. Sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness in its purest form. And awareness is a threat in a world that profits off numbness. So they shame what they don't understand. And they name it weakness because they fear its strength. tie in to previous video. If this resonated with you, then you'll want to watch my last video. Backhand index pointing right, the #1 mindset that's ruining your life, according to Jung. It explores how most of us unknowingly sabotage ourselves by denying the very parts of our psyche that could lead us to transformation. Watch it now. And remember, the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more thinkers like you.